Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
For centuries, ancient cultures knew the secrets to longevity, vitality, and healing. Now, modern science is catching up. Ageless Blueprint is a podcast that will reveal the modern secrets of better health and a better life. Join Dr. Eldred Taylor here today and every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. As together we discover the secrets to better health through science and spirituality. A better life with Ageless Blueprint starts now. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Taylor, and I am the hormone doctor and the spiritual MD. And I want to welcome you to the Ageless Blueprint podcast, where we try to reconnect body, mind, and spirit. And that is our mission here. That's why I give myself the two monikers, because we want to first start with the body, because that's what I was trained in medicine, in medical school, whatever. And then we want to talk about the mind, and then we want to get to the spirit. And today we're going to really talk about that basic foundation, which is hormones. That's my basic foundation. That's how I got into functional medicine. I started learning about bioidentical hormones. We wrote the book, Are Your Hormones Making You Sick? Then we wrote the other book, The Stress Connection. So those two are my foundations. And then from there, once you get your body and your mind straight, then we can talk about spiritual things, because it takes a higher level of consciousness in order to do that. You have to think on a different level. You have to be able to contemplate. You have to think about things in the future. And when you're under stress, you're only thinking about yourself in this very second. So we want to get those two straight, then we can hit into the spiritual part of this. So, and I have a special announcement. I'm going to save it to the end, but I've always said that, hey, look, movements start from the bottom up. Okay, they don't start from the top down. So if you're thinking that the American College of OBGYN or any kind of government or any kind of organized agency is going to really start a movement that's going to help you, then you're wrong. So at the end, I'm going to talk about how we're going to start a movement from the bottom up, where I believe that these concepts can be taught to just regular people, non-medical people. It's very simple. I used to do a lecture called I Can Make You an Honorary Gynecologist in 4 slides in 5 minutes. And so we're going to start creating, and this is my vision, that we're going to create an army of lay people, women, men, who really understand the truth about hormones and how to use them functionally, how to measure them, how to test them, how to treat them. And I really think that this can be done. So I'm going to talk more about this about the end, but we're going to start off with hormones. And first, because actually I just came back from the Dominican Republic. I went to a wedding of a friend of mine, and we had some rain there, but nothing like what they're experiencing in Jamaica. And I know I have a lot of patients who are originally from Jamaica and have family and friends there. I actually know people who are there. So I want to, encourage you all that we pray for them, we think about them, and if there's any way we can help them in these relief efforts, that we think about doing that. So I was just looking this morning about the devastation in Jamaica, and it's unbelievable. And people got stranded there. So I thank God that that didn't happen to us in the Dominican Republic. And it was just a little rain. It rained out the wedding, but it was still beautiful. It was in the lobby or in this area. So everything worked out. Everything worked out great, and I'm thankful for that. So anyway, so let's get to the lecture. Let's get to the slides, and we're going to talk about hormones. All right. So I think that the missing link between mind, body, and spirit, why people are, kind of disconnected, is that their hormones are out of whack. And maybe I'm jaded because I'm an OBGYN and this is what I see, but this is what I've recognized. And even on one of my live calls, it was in my courses where we talk about hormones and we talk about mindset and all that. And she said, hey, look, there was no way I could talk about mindset and parasympathetic and spirituality until my hormones got straight, because somehow she didn't pick up her prescription or whatever, and she was just totally lost. She just couldn't think. She couldn't do anything. So it's very important that we get the hormones right. So how your chemistry shapes your consciousness, and why true healing starts with balance. And so the whole universe works off of balance. Okay. There's always these positive and negative forces, or these, yin yang, all that. The whole universe is based on balance. And one thing that I definitely believe has to be in balance for you to move anywhere closer to being and doing what you really want to be and do is you have to get these hormones straight. So this is what we're going to talk about, is that missing link between mind, body, and spirit. We want to talk about hormones. All right. So hormones is really how your body talks to each other. The ovaries send messages to your uterus, to your brain, to your breast. Your thyroid sends messages to every cell in your body. Your cortisol, it regulates glucose. So hormones just really are conductors and tell your body exactly what to do. So hormones are your body's primary communication network. It's biochemical language intricately connecting every cell. They act as vital messengers, orchestrating all internal processes. So all of your internal processes are governed by your hormones, and it's also governed by your nervous system. So shaping mind, body, and spirit. Beyond physical regulation, hormones profoundly shape your emotional landscape, mental clarity, and spiritual awareness. They lay the foundation for how you experience reality. And this is what I'll tell you in my office. Number one thing patients complain about when their hormones are out of whack is mental fog. Mental clarity is totally gone. They can't focus. They can't think. They just feel totally out of whack mentally. They say they can't concentrate. They get diagnosed as being bipolar. I even have had patients be diagnosed with dementia, and really all they needed were their hormones balanced. So this is very important. And if you don't understand it, you're going to be diagnosed incorrectly and you're going to be treated incorrectly. So that's why it's so important to understand hormones. So when hormones are balanced, they create a clear channel to intuition and peace. This allows you to access your deepest wisdom and achieve inner harmony. And these are one of the other laws, is that your outer world reflects your inner world. So if your inner world is chaotic, your outer world is going to be chaotic. And that's why you want to get these internal processes, you want to get them in balance so that your outer world will be balanced. So, and this is all of the new stuff that I am learning, is that your reality is created by you. Is not really created by the people around you. It's not your mother, it's not your father, it's not your kids, it's not your boss. Is that you create your reality. And if you can create your inner reality and you balance that, you're going to be able to think clearly. You're going to be able to make good decisions so that your reality can change, because anything that you're experiencing now is the result of past decisions. So if you want your reality to change in the future, you have to change your decision making, and you have to have a clear mind, and you have to use that intuition. And intuition comes from above, okay? And you have to have a clear mind even more to receive it. Your mind has to be peaceful to hear that clear, small voice, that faint, small voice that tells you right, left, up, down, all right? And the more I get into this, the more I believe it, all right? The mind-body bridge, okay? When you are under stress, your stress hormones shut down your prefrontal cortex. So you're not able to think. You only react. You only are going by instinct. And so you're going to react in a familiar pattern. Okay. So that's what we talk about triggers. Somebody says something and it triggers you. That's because you are reacting to something in the past. Something in the past happened that you don't like, that was uncomfortable for you, or for that was a difficult situation for you, and then someone says something that reminds you, and you react. You don't think, and that's, that happens with a lot of relationships. Talk about when you bring baggage into a relationship. Somebody says something and it triggers you from something in the past, and then you react. And then you go back after you're calm, and you think, you have to apologize, and you have to hope that they don't take it personally and all of that. But if you could get yourself out of the stress mode, let your prefrontal cortex, which is the executive part of your brain, if you can let that intervene, then you can respond instead of reacting. But you have to have a clear mind. You have to not be under the influence of stress, because stress makes you only think of your right now situation. I'm in trouble. I'm in danger right now. So you only have time to react and not to think. All right. So it limits creative thinking, problem solving, and access to higher consciousness. So there's no way you can get that intuition. That's why people get into so much trouble when they just react to things and they don't take a deep breath. What I've learned is that before you react, take a deep breath and just try to think about how to respond calmly. And I'll tell you that this has made a big difference in my marriage relationship. After 38 years, I have learned to respond and not react. And if you can do that, you will be surprised at how your relationships will change, how your reality will change just by doing that. All right. So, survival mode activated. Chronic cortisol dominance keeps your nervous system trapped in fight or flight, making genuine presence nearly impossible. So, that's why we talk about you have to be present. All right. Because if you are under fight or flight, it's hard for you to be present right now. You're just reacting. And the last thing you're thinking about really is your future, a month from now or a year from now, because all you can think about is survival. You just think about those people in Jamaica. They're not doing any planning. They're just trying to survive. How am I going to eat? Where am I going to sleep? How am I going to get back to the airport? There's not going to be any creative. I mean, maybe they can creatively figure out a way to get home, but that's still going to be in the survival mode. So that's how you got to think. And you can think yourself into the survival mode, even though you are not in the survival mode, just by thinking. And that's why if you can think peaceful thoughts, you can get yourself out of that stress cycle that you're going through. All right. So balance restores the parasympathetic state. That is your biological foundation for spiritual wellness, intuition, and deep healing. You can't heal when you're in the stress mode. That's why I say, hey, most breast cancers begin 2 years after a stressful event or after several stressful events, because your body can't heal. It can't repair itself. It can't go and find cancer cells when you're in the fight or flight state. You have to be in the rest and digest state for repair, regeneration, longevity, all of that to take place. You have to find a way to get into that parasympathetic state. And you can do that internally, even though chaos is going on all around you. All right. Now, I will tell you one thing. When I went into medicine, they said, the key to in medicine is that, can you remain calm when chaos is going on all around you? And that was something that I learned early on, is how can I stay calm even though people are running around, there's C-sections to be done and all that. And so that is how you have to approach life. Can I stay calm even though chaos is going on all around me? So you cannot access your highest self when your body believes you're under threat. Hormonal harmony is the bridge that allows mind, body, and spirit to finally work as one. So that's just what I'm saying. You got to get that internal world. You know, when I made up these slides, there was more contrast. So I'm sorry if you can't see the words. So I'm going to try and uh, have my point and help you follow along. But your spirit, and that's what we're trying to get to, is how can we reconnect to our spirit, our essence. What are we supposed to be and do, and not what society says we should be or do. All right, because that's what we get conditioned into, and that's how we get disconnected. We want, or we are destined to be one type of person and have one type of identity and have one purpose. And when we get disconnected from that, it's stressful because you're not being who you are supposed to be. All right. I am finally figuring out who I'm supposed to be. And it's this, and everything in my 30-year career is leading me to this. And that's kind of how you have to think of everything, is that be grateful for all of your experiences. And for some reason, you're listening to this or you're following me for some reason. And I believe all of this is divinely connected. So, anyway, your spiritual journey isn't separate from your physiology, it's expressed through it. Each hormone plays a sacred role in creating the conditions for consciousness to flourish. All right. And consciousness just really means to be aware of who you are and how things work around you, just being aware, because we walk around in a daydream and just letting our subconscious guide us based on patterns in our past. But consciousness means to be aware, to be conscious, awake, and not just doing what you've always done. All right. So, but you can't do this if you don't have peace. And progesterone is the peace bringer. It's the calming hormone that creates stillness and receptivity. It's the biochemical essence of surrender, allowing you to receive guidance rather than constantly pushing. Yes, I'm going to talk about progesterone is an anti-anxiety, anti-depression hormone. It makes you feel good. And we're going to talk about that more in some future slides. Testosterone is the purpose driver, direction, determination, and drive flow from balanced testosterone. It gives you the energy to act on your spiritual insights and manifest your purpose. So, yes, and if you believe in some of the ancient teachings, testosterone, men are fire. They're supposed to act. Actually, women have the wisdom, and they give the wisdom to the man, and the man acts on it. All right. And that's where we get, if you want to think of this in the modern terms, that is the honeydew list. Okay. My wife has all of these ideas about what to do in the house and this and that. And she hands them to me, and I'm supposed to act on it. Well, that's the testosterone, the purpose driver. Now, women have some of that also. Okay. So women have some testosterone, but men is the primary hormone. In women, the primary hormones are progesterone and estrogen, and testosterone is a minor hormone. In men, these are minor hormones, and this is the major hormone. And when you talk about ancient teachings and all this, they talk about divine feminine and divine masculine. And everybody has a little bit of both. All right. And I should say this, is that men primarily will be testosterone dominant. Women will be primarily estrogen and progesterone dominant, as long as those are in balance. And estrogen and progesterone have some significance in men, but not much. Okay. So this is how this whole symphony kind of works. All right. But here's the monkey wrench. All right. And this is why we wrote the book, The Stress Connection. Why chronic stress blocks everything. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, was designed for short bursts of danger. But in this modern world, it rarely turns off. The result is a cascade of consequences that affect every aspect of your being. And that's what we figured out. I started as an OBGYN. I got interested in bioidentical hormones because what I learned about hormones wasn't helping my wife. And this is what I'll tell you. When my wife's hormones were out of balance, that's when hormone balance became very important to me. Okay. Because I was living with somebody 24/7 who was not very peaceful. All right. She was not very peaceful, and it was affecting our relationship. It was affecting the relationship with our kids. She was irritable 2 weeks before a menstrual cycle. She would say all kinds of things. She was reacting and not responding. And then once she would settle down and her hormones would settle down, she'd go back and apologize to the kids and to me and all this. And I said, something is not right. So we both went down this journey and did Are Your Hormones Making You Sick? Then after about 2 or 3 years of that, we saw that, hey, still it wasn't working perfectly in everyone. And we started understanding stress and how it blocks and screws up everything. So cortisol, your primary stress hormone. So what does it lead to? Mental fog and difficulty concentrating. So that can be from estrogen progesterone imbalance, and it can also be from a cortisol imbalance. Emotional reactivity and mood swings. When you are under stress, this is where I think ADD comes from. When you are under stress, you're hyper vigilant. You're always looking around to see where the danger is. And that makes it difficult for you to focus and to concentrate. So a lot of what I believe ADD is really cortisol issues. Disrupted sleep patterns. Yes, when you are under stress, the last thing you want to do is have a deep sleep where you might get attacked or whatever. So you have to think this is all off of instinct. So you're going to have difficulty sleeping because you don't want to sleep if you're in danger. So weight gain, especially around the midsection, because cortisol mobilizes glucose so you have energy to run and to fight. Well, if you don't run or fight, it's going to get stored away as fat. Then that leads to insulin resistance and then so on and so forth. So you get suppressed immune function. Again, your body's not worried about a bacteria that might kill you in 2 weeks or a cancer that may kill you in 2 years. It is only looking at your present danger. So all of those systems get shut down. And then you get a loss of spiritual connection and intuition because instinct is not any way connected with your higher consciousness. You don't have time to think about philosophy and spiritual connection and all of that when you are being chased by a lion or a tiger or a bear. Okay. So all of that gets disconnected. Stop thinking about, you may want to think about what's going to happen when you die, but you don't have time to think about that right now. Okay. So you lose your spiritual connection and your intuition. You're just going off of instinct and you're reacting just like the way you've acted in the past, because that is imprinted or wired into your brain, is that's how you react to a certain situation. Even when you know that situation eventually is going to hurt you, you still at that moment, you just react. All right. The truth, you cannot meditate your way out of a biochemical imbalance. I say you can't diet and exercise your way past the imbalance, and you can't meditate your way out of a biochemical imbalance. You cannot quiet your mind if cortisol and adrenaline is pumping like crazy. You cannot quiet your mind when your progesterone is low. Okay, you can't. And so, for me, in our course, we have hormone clarity. Then we have the 5 pillars of ageless living, just to try and talk about how you need to get all of your systems, your GI system, your cardiovascular system, all that. Then only after that do we want you to go to mindset mastery, because there's no way you can control your mind when your hormones are out of balance. All right. So there's a process to that. And then once you can calm your mind, then we can talk about connecting to the spirit or a higher spirit, whatever you want to call it. Whatever you believe is this guiding force that created and guides the universe. All right. So I really talk about the Muse headband and meditation, but if your hormones are out of whack, I won't say you'll never be able to meditate, but it's going to be very, very difficult. All right. It's going to be very difficult. So that's why I'm so fixated on hormones. All right. So this is the Ageless Blueprint framework. All right. So what we want to do is lasting transformation happens when we address healing from all angles, physical, mental, and spiritual. The 5-step framework creates the foundation for true hormonal harmony and awakened consciousness. All right. So this is really it in a nutshell. I don't believe that you can treat anything correctly if you don't have some type of objective measurement. Okay, that's why you go and get blood work. That's why you go and get MRIs or whatever, trying to find some type of so you have to test correctly. And I'll say that I keep saying this over and over again. I went through a residency 4 years at Emory University, 20 minutes away from where I'm living right now. We did an OBGYN residency. I was chief resident Okay, so in my class, I was the top resident. We never drew blood levels. Okay, we never drew blood levels for hormones. We never drew hormone levels at all because the blood does not tell you anything about your hormones and how they are balanced. And I've gotten I've gotten into that in other podcasts, but you have to test correctly. That's why I didn't know what was wrong with my wife because I had no test. I gave her she took birth control pills. She took this, that, and the other, and nothing worked. We finally did a saliva test and saw she was progesterone deficient. We gave her progesterone and our life was back to normal again. You have to do the right test. And I'm just going to tell you, I've just really gotten on social media and I see all of these people who call themselves an expert. I actually had a patient who came to me because she had gone to see a menopause expert at Emory University. And they were telling her that progesterone was not important. She just needed to take estrogen. She never tested her blood levels. Even if she did test her blood levels, they weren't going to tell her anything. So there's all these menopause experts that are at major universities. And I did one podcast talking about how they did a study just recently, and only 9% of doctors felt like they knew how to handle menopause after leaving their residency. And I didn't know how to handle it after leaving my residency 30 years ago. And so it hasn't gotten any better. So this is a plan. And I want you to pay attention to this because I want you to take part in this plan. And that's what this big announcement is going to be at the end. All right. So first you have to test right. Saliva testing reveals your true hormone rhythm and balance throughout the day, not just a snapshot, but the full story of how your body functions. And blood is not even a snapshot. That's what people say. Oh, you can't do it because this is no, it has no bearing because it's everything that's in the blood, except only 1 to 2% is bound and inactive. And what you have to understand is that if 1% is supposed to go to the uterus and 2% goes, you have doubled the effect on the uterus. So that can cause fibroids to grow and cause your endometrial your lining of the uterus to grow to give you heavy periods or whatever. But in the blood is negligible. You can't see the difference between 1 to 2% because in the blood, the normal levels are so big, you can't recognize that. But in the saliva, you can see that the amount has gone from 1% to 2%, which means it has doubled. All right. So that's what I'm trying to get across. Okay. 1 to 2% doesn't mean much when you have a whole of 100%, but it does mean a lot when you go from 1 to 2%. That means the effect has doubled. And if 3% grows, you still can't see it in the blood, but it's tripled in the tissue. That is the concept I want to get across to you. That's why saliva testing is so important. All right. So then you have to balance first. You have to correct the progesterone estrogen ratio before adding hormones. Most women are estrogen dominant, and adding more without balancing creates chaos. And that's what I see everybody on social media talking about is needing more estrogen. And the reason why is that during menopause, the ovary stops making estrogen. So it looks like you have no estrogen in the blood, but your fat tissue can make estrogen. Okay, fat tissue can make estrogen out of androstenedione and testosterone. These are long words, but you have a backup estrogen factory so women can remain feminine even though they're not reproducing anymore. All right, so there is estrogen there, but progesterone goes away when you stop ovulating. And 100% of women will stop ovulating or making an egg in menopause. So progesterone goes down way further than estrogen ever does. So you create an imbalance in perimenopause and menopause. It's simple as that. All right. So now you want to calm cortisol. All right. You want to use meditation, adaptogens, herbs, breath work, and nervous system practices to reset your stress response and restore parasympathetic dominance. So you got to, once we get your estrogen progesterone straight, we got to get your cortisol right. Then after that, we can reprogram the mind. We can replace fear-based conditioning with conscious awareness. Your thoughts create chemistry, shifting beliefs shifts biology. All right. So it's a stepwise pattern here, you guys. But first, you got to test correctly. And that's what I'm going to try and create as an army of people who can go through these steps with their friends and their families and get them first to test right and then go through these steps. And I believe I can teach people that, because if not only 9% of the doctors know how to handle menopause, I can get 100% of women who go through the course with me to help me spread this message. So now we're going from the bottom up instead of the top down. All right. So we reprogram the mind. Then we're going to awaken the spirit. With biochemical peace established, true coherence emerges. You align with purpose and connect with your higher self naturally. All right. I know it's time for a break, but I'm really excited to get this across to you, because I feel like it's the start of something big, and I hope you see what I see. All right. And I'm going to try and help you see this vision that I have. All right. All right. So let's go to break.
We are going to a quick break, so stay with us as we explore the Ageless Blueprint right here on W4HC Radio and Talk 4 TV. An ancient secret with a modern twist for better health and vitality. Dr. Taylor will be right back. Taking care of your health shouldn't mean taking a handful of pills every day. At Taylor MD Formulations, they create doctor-developed supplements that combine the best natural ingredients so you get the results you need with fewer pills. Taylor MD Formulations is backed by science, designed for real life with real results. Less pills, better health, doctor approved. Shop now at TaylorMDFormulations.com and discover smarter supplements for smarter health. That's TaylorMDFormulations.com. We are back for more of Ageless Blueprint. Once again, let's join Dr. Taylor for more insights and research on the ancient secret to better health and a better life in modern times. Here's your host, Dr. Eldred Taylor.
All right. I'm back. This is the Ageless Blueprint, and I am Dr. Taylor, the hormone doctor and spiritual MD. So I hope you see, from what this blueprint here, how we're going to connect the hormone doctor to the spiritual MD. So you see at the end, it's awaken the spirit. So, but we got to go through these. I don't want to say we have to go through these steps, but these are the steps that I see as a framework to get people reconnected to their pure essence. All right. And this is what I'm thinking about, with men and women. Okay. Is that you have had a whole lot of roles in your life. You've been, daughter and son, you've been child, you've been a student, you've been a young adult, you've been, single, then you've been married, then for marriage, you had a family, you've had all these roles. And a lot of times right here in this 40, 50, 60 range, you're asking the question, who am I? All right. Am I a mother? Who am I? Okay. So that's what I came upon in my 50s and 60s. Who am I? And I hope this is some way where you can settle down your brain and get that connection where you can, at this stage of your life, figure out who you really are. Because now is the time where you can really make decisions that are based on you. And that's what I hear these menopausal women, now that they've gotten the kids out of the house and whatever, they are now rediscovering themselves. And a lot of times you got to get your hormones right. You got to get all of this stuff right before you can rediscover yourself. All right. Hey, Rebel, do we have any questions yet? You there, Rebel? I'm going to say that means no. You there, Rebel? All right. Well, okay. Let's keep going then. All right. The power of progesterone. There's one hormone that deserves special attention in our modern world, and it's progesterone, often called the feel-good hormone. Progesterone is profoundly calming and restorative. All right. So I'm just surprised at how no one really talks about progesterone. And it is so, so important. And nobody talks about it. When I'm on my TikTok live, and even the person who's helping me with that, she's like, I've never heard of this before. And this is, I think, is the most important. Everybody's heard of estrogen, but nobody really wants to talk about progesterone. So it's a natural anti-anxiety hormone. Progesterone calms the nervous system naturally, reducing anxiety without side effects of pharmaceutical interventions. All right, it is a sleep enhancer. This is the first thing that happens. Sometimes on the first night, if someone takes oral progesterone, it's a sleep enhancer. It promotes deep restorative sleep, the foundation for healing cellular repair and dream state consciousness. All right, it is an estrogen balancer. Progesterone counterbalances estrogen dominance, which is responsible for so many modern symptoms from PMS to brain fog. And then it is the spiritual gateway. By creating inner stillness, progesterone opens the door to receptivity, the space where intuition and spiritual downloads occur. So I'll tell you, understanding progesterone changed my life. Now, here's the problem. In my residency, we didn't talk about progesterone. We talked about progestins. Progestins are things like Depo-Provera and Orgestamate and the things that you get in your birth control pills, because progesterone is so important, but you can't make money off of progesterone. So they changed progesterone, okay, into these derivatives. But anytime you change a molecule, even slightly, it changes the effect. So it may make one effect of the hormone better, and it may make one effect worse. So progesterone was primarily used to control bleeding. All right. So they made all of these derivatives to be really good at controlling bleeding, but none of them can do any of this. Okay. Your birth control pill is not going to be a natural anti-anxiety. It's not going to help you to sleep. It's not going to balance estrogen, and it's not going to be your spiritual gateway. All right. So it's really good at controlling bleeding, but it's not real progesterone. So you don't get any of these positive aspects. All right. So that's why this is so important. All right. So what if your symptoms are your soul's way of asking for biochemical peace? All right. We've been conditioned to see symptoms as problems to suppress. You know, we want to get rid of our fever. We want to get rid of our back pain or whatever. But take this pill, push through, ignore the messages your body is sending. But what if there's another way? What if your fatigue, anxiety, brain fog, weight gain, and loss of vitality aren't failures or weaknesses, but rather intelligent communication from your deepest self? Yeah, a lot of times, and this is why people go through therapy and they go through hypnosis, because a lot of times ailments are messages from your inner self trying to get you to change something, either change your biochemistry or change your thought processes or change how you look at the past or whatever. So your body is always speaking. When hormones are out of balance, it's not random. It's a reflection of unprocessed stress and trauma. And that's what I'm saying. You're in this constant fight or flight state, right? Disconnection from your authentic path. All right. You know, a lot of women have sacrificed their life, their career goals for their family and their husbands, and they feel disconnected. And again, a lot of times when all the distractions are gone away, these women really look at themselves and they see how disconnected they are. All right. And a lot of times when their hormones are out of balance, they feel even more disconnected. And I did a lecture, I did a podcast on gray divorce. A lot of this is causing these women who are now the primary initiators of divorce after 50, they're re-examining themselves. All right. And they're saying they're not going to sacrifice themselves anymore. So lack of spiritual nourishment and environmental and nutritional depletion. So all of these can cause your hormones to be out of whack. If you're eating foods that have pesticides on it, that can act like hormone disruptors, because that's how they kill the pests, by disrupting their reproductive processes. And it can also do the same thing to you. All right. So what's the next step? You know, I would love, if you think this is an issue, is you order a test kit. You test right. That's always the first step. We got to get the right testing. So knowledge is power, and awareness is the first step toward transformation, being conscious, aware. You cannot balance what you cannot measure. And that's one of my mottos too. You can't, in order to balance something, you have to have a scale to measure it on. All right. And you have to have the right scale. And the right scale for hormones is a saliva test. So you get comprehensive saliva testing that reveals your true hormone patterns throughout the day, the most accurate way to assess your biochemical reality. You can receive a personalized analysis. And all of this is in all of my links. You can go to my stand store, or you can order a kit. You get a personalized analysis. Your results come from detailed interpretation and insights specific to your unique hormonal landscape. So I go over your report. I show you exactly what it means, and the steps you can do to change whatever it's out of balance. And we create your custom protocol based on the results. We develop a targeted plan. Is cortisol the issue? Is progesterone the issue? Is estrogen the issue? We just take all of that, and it's not very hard, and it's not very expensive to balance your hormones. This isn't about guessing or using a one-size-fits-all approach. It's about understanding your unique chemistry so you can make informed decisions about your health, vitality, and spiritual journey. First of all is identifying the problem. I see on my social media, everybody saying, I have all of these issues. I go to the doctor. He does blood tests and tells me everything's normal. I just have to deal with it, or I need a hysterectomy. It's because you are not doing the right test. And I have been trying to spread this message for 25 years. We wrote the book, Are Your Hormones Making You Sick, in 2000. That's the first copyright. All right. So I have tried my best. So now I'm trying to come up with a new way to get this done. Okay. So begin your journey to biochemical peace. True healing isn't about choosing between science and spirituality. It's about honoring both as sacred tools for transformation. When you balance your hormones, you're not just addressing symptoms, you're creating the biological foundation for mental clarity and emotional resilience. Deep restorative sleep and sustained energy, enhanced intuition and spiritual awareness, authentic connection with yourself and others, and alignment with your highest purpose. Your body is waiting to become the clear channel it was designed to be. So again, I want to invite you to my school group, SKOL. It's all in all of my links. My school group, I'm making big changes to my school group where you can join for free. I did have it was $10 a month. You join for free. You get into the community. I give an ageless tip of the day every day, and usually I'll post something else, and you can just be a part of the community. I also have courses there. I have a course called Hormone Clarity. I have a course called The 5 Pillars of Ageless Living, and a course called Mindset Mastery. I'm going to add a course about peptides. Now, that core basic course right now will be $10 a month, but we're going to create some other tiers. We're going to have commissions because we want you to help grow this community, where we're going to have higher level tiers that have more benefits. And if somebody joins for free that you referred and they decide to upgrade, I'll be giving out commissions for you helping to grow this community and you helping me spread this message. And then this is my ultimate goal here. All right. So I've recently been on TikTok and Instagram. And one of the reasons why I got on there is because I had old patients of mine who were following my protocol here, and they were doing fine, and they were doing so well. They said, okay, now I'll just go back to my regular doctor, or I'll I'll educate myself on Instagram or whatever. And they got all this conflicting information. And some of them followed that information and came back to me so I could do what we had done in the past. And I asked them, why did they change? And they said, well, there were all these people on here who were saying this, that, and the other, and they were experts, or said they were coaches or whatever. And they would they were talking about the things that I'm telling you are insignificant. Blood testing, estrogen, not talking about progesterone, talking about estrogen and testosterone for energy, where really cortisol is your main energy flow during the day. So anyway, what I want to do is I want to create an army of coaches that understand this, okay? That understand this. And it's not hard. Estrogen causes growth. Progesterone slows down growth and increases development. It's an anti-anxiety. In a few weeks, I can educate you as a coach. All right. And if you help me spread this message, I will give you commissions about that. All right. And also, I just want you to first go through the process yourself. All right. And you're your first coach, or you're your first student. And I'll tell you, I know patients of mine who they know this, backwards and forwards because they've lived it. They've been patients of mine for 20 something years and they totally understand this. And I want to recruit them to help me tell someone else in a formalized way. I know you talk about it over coffee or whatever, but in a formalized way. And that's why I'm trying to build this army from the bottom up. Okay. That's how movements start. I used to talk about how in OB, how women changed how babies are delivered. When I first started this 30 years ago, it was still where you went to the delivery room and the father stayed out and the family stayed out in the waiting room. Well, during my residency, that's when all these labor and delivery renaissance, the labor and delivery renaissance happened, where now a labor delivery ward looks like the Ritz Carlton and all the family can be there and all that. And that was not started by the American College of OBGYN. That was caused by baby boomers demanding it. Okay, this baby boomer generation said, I'm not going to have babies like my mother and father did. And they changed OB. And I'm trying to change GYN, and I'm trying to change hormone balancing. And I'm recruiting those women, those perimenopausal and menopausal women who are tired of being ignored, who really want to understand what is going on with them and their children and their sisters and their aunts and their uncles. And you can understand this. And I can help educate you as being a coach and certify you as a real menopause coach, where you're not diagnosing anything. You're just educating people about this. All right. So if you're interested in that, put coach in the comments wherever you are, wherever you hear this, just put coach in the comments and we'll contact you. And as soon as this program is developed, you'll be the first to know. We'll have a waiting list, and we're really going to have a commission structure that really encourages you to spread this message. So that's my goal. That's what I'm working on. That's what I'm planning. And I hope to have this out really, really soon. Hey, Rebel, are you there? I've lost contact with you, sounds like.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Do we have any questions?
No, I think everybody is in shock and awe of learning the things you taught us about today.
Yeah.
It is amazing how we really don't think about these things. It's very
Yeah.
important that we start getting on board and knowing what's really going on with us.
Yeah. And this is not hard. And I think I hope it's a framework that people understand, is that you have to test right. You don't know what blood pressure medicine to give somebody if you never check their blood pressure. You can't look at somebody and see that their blood pressure is not where it's supposed to be. You have to have an accurate test. All right. And then once you have that test, you're trying to balance the diastolic and the systolic, that top and bottom number. So you do things to try and balance that out. Everything is about balance. And everything is about testing or having good information to work off of. And because blood testing is not good information, we have so many people out there talking about subjects that they don't really know about. So I want to have a group of certified coaches who understand this, who can spread this message, and it's not very hard. And so if you're interested, join my school group, somehow contact me and say, yes, I'm interested. And we will get this army together, and we'll go out and just be messengers of truth, and so that we can clear this up. So when they hear something that contradicts this, that they will know that, hey, no, this is what is really going on. I'm going to disregard all of this other stuff that I've heard on social media, because I know how things really work. So that's my goal. I'm going to keep talking about this. And I really think this is the way that we can change women's health. We do it one woman at a time. And even men need to understand about cortisol and testosterone and all of that. So I'm an OBGYN, so I talk mostly about women, but hormones And this whole stepwise framework, it's the same for men also. I see men who are on a bunch of testosterone and their cortisol's out of whack, and they wonder why the testosterone doesn't work anymore. So this is important for men and women. So I know we're out of time. So I hope that you'll message me or whatever. And if you have any questions about this, and again, I would love to hear what you want, because this is still being formulated. So I would love to understand, what you want, so I can try and provide it and shape it in a way that's easy for everybody to take part. All right. So if there's no questions, I'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks for joining Dr. Taylor today. If you missed any part of this show, just check out the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Ageless Blueprint is every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on W4HC Radio at W4HC.com. Together, we discover the ancient secrets to better health through science and spirituality made for modern times. Until then, feel free to check out agelessblueprintpodcast.com and TaylorMDFormulations.com for more information.